Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is Cults to Consciousness, and my name is Shelise Ansola. And today's guest, we had her on to do a regular video. We wanted to bring her back and do a live. Everyone is just in awe of her story and want to know more. And so we're so excited. I'll tell a little bit more about her story, but let me bring her on first. Thank you for joining us, Ellaf.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so maybe what's it been like first, and then I'll give everyone like a rundown of your story. What's it been like seeing all of the comments and the outpouring of support since the video's gone up?
It's been overwhelming. I mean, I've had people that I know have their family members send them the video and say, "Oh my gosh, this is your friend." And
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's just coming up on people's pages. I've had so many people reach out to me and message me, and it's been just a lot of love. So thank you, everybody.
Yay.
It really makes me feel really good. Thank you.
Oh, that's so nice. I love hearing that. So, for those who aren't familiar with Elaf's story, definitely go watch her episode after this. We're kind of going to be diving into some things that we didn't necessarily talk about in depth in her episode. So, stay tuned for this, and then you can go back and hear the first part. But Elaf's story, so she was born and raised until she was 14 years old in the United States. Her father took her back to Iraq, kind of tricked her into moving back there, where he then chose a husband for her when she was still 14 years old. And it was an incredibly abusive situation from her abusive father to this abusive husband. She ended up having three children, all in varying different circumstances, came back to the States and was just trying to figure out a way to escape from her abusive husband and the control of her father. It's a harrowing story. It's one of those where I'm just like, preach this whole time. It's just amazing. I'm like fangirling the whole interview. I'm like, you're so amazing. And so, what we wanted to talk about today is more about how she was able to escape that control and really reintegrate herself into society because she was completely isolated from the world, where to the extent of her father wouldn't even allow her to have a cell phone at one point, and she's a mother with children. So we're going to talk about how she was able to reintegrate into society, build a business, buy a house, have all of these jobs working night shifts to support her children, and just kind of what that was like. So did I miss anything in that overview, Elaf?
And now you summed it up really well.
Okay. Okay, great. So I think I would like to start where I feel like it's the point of your story where things start to shift, where you realize I have to get out of here. You start standing up for yourself. Your brother starts standing up for you. I think it's the moment of contention, and you know what moment I'm talking about. So I'm just gonna let you tell the story.
Yes, thank you so much for the introduction and kind of a brief of our last interview. So, I came back to America in 2017 and I brought him back because it was the only way to be able to leave. So, I worked for 2 years on doing a spousal visa, brought him back here. And, I had hopes that when he'd come to America, that things would change and he'd be better. And, just hoping for the best, but it never happened. I learned the hard way that it wasn't his environment or anything, it's just who he was. So, we rented a house across the street from my father, and my brother was with me at the time, my three kids, and him, my ex husband. And things just kept getting abusive to the point where my brother just stopped going to work. And because my ex husband would manipulate my dad into believing him, saying, she's doing this wrong and she's doing that wrong. And of course, like a father that's very traditional, would always want the woman to behave. So he'd come and attack me for these things. But my brother wasn't buying it. So my brother just sat at home. He's like, I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to see what's really going on. So he did that, and when he really saw how everything was going on, he was sick and tired of having to take me to the hospital from migraines, and sick and tired of seeing me cry or hide my keys under the pillow just so I can make it to class, things like that. And he kicked him out, and when he came back. So after a few days and a few weeks, my ex-husband came back. When he came back, one evening he was really upset, and he cornered me in our bedroom on the second floor in the house, and he had a knife poking at me on my throat, and he had me elbowed to the wall in the corner. Um, and I'm sorry. Every time
That's
I say it just gets me a little. And I remember him going and telling my son that was about 5 years old at the time to go get him a knife, and before he had it, and he just had it poking at me. And as many times as he's tried to attempt to murder me, I thought, well, I brought him all the way to America, and I couldn't save myself. But because we were across the street from my dad, he heard me screaming, and he came in, and he yelled at him, and I was like, oh my god, thank god my dad's here to save me. And he yelled at him, and he's like, hey, are you stupid? Like, this is too far with the abuse. She's gonna call the cops, and she's going to take it to the law. It wasn't I expected him to say, how dare you, my daughter? Like, it was no, it was trying to protect him from the law. It wasn't about me. And that's when it hit me that was like rock bottom for me. That's where I couldn't take it anymore. So they were arguing, and he was talking my dad into convincing him everything was okay. But while they were talking, I just like escaped to the bathroom and texted my sister. And I texted her, I said, call 911. I was like, I can't do it anymore, and I can't call because if they hear me, they will break the door and get to me. So you have to call them for me.
mm-hmm.
um, so they came and arrested him, and he went to jail for a few days and came back out. Again, it was just a cycle for a few months that was going on. But finally, I told my brother, I was like, please don't let him back. Like, this is like my breaking point. No matter what I do, no matter what I tell you, do not let him back. And he didn't. My brother was only 18 at the time, and he stood up for me when nobody else would. So
Mm.
he wouldn't let him back in the house. And I told him, to my ex-husband, I said, I don't want to deport you. I don't want to put you in jail. I don't want to ruin your life. Just live your separate life. You could see your kids anytime you want, all of that. And he just refused. So he got up and went back to Iraq. And from then on, it's just been me and my kids.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so terrifying. One thing that I didn't ask you in our interview is, are your kids still in contact with him? Has he made any effort to see them since?
Not at all.
Really?
He not. That's what I was surprised. Our daughter was only 3 years old, and then my boys were in elementary school at the time. And when I don't know who told me that he went back to Iraq. Somebody told me, and I was like, yeah, right. Like, he's not just gonna let us live freely. There's no way, and there's no way. Like, even if he doesn't want to contact me, there's no way he's leaving his kids. Like, and he did, and he never reached out again. After a few months after he left, I think it was like a Muslim holiday, and I said, you know what, like, I want the kids to call their grandparents from their father's side. So we called them, and he kept taking the phone from his parents and yelling at me and cussing me out. And but he never asked for them. Like, it was just yelling and cussing me out. So we
Mm.
never talked to him after that. He still, to this day, it's been 6 years, still to this day, on every social media account, he'll make a different account. He'll get accounts from all his family members and harass me online all the time, till this day, every day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and he's remarried with a child, but yeah, he still harasses me every single day.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize he was remarried. I feel for that other woman.
I know, poor thing.
Wow. So, one thing is getting away from your husband, your now ex-husband, but you were still under the control of your father after that. So, let's talk about how your father reacted to all of this and how you were able to get out from under his control.
So my father was not a big fan of me getting divorced and being on my own. He saw it in a way as, oh, you're disobedient, or you're retaliating. Oh, you have some freedom now. Now you're acting out. You should have stayed in Iraq. I should have not let you come. You're putting us to shame, things like that. And I said, Dad, I literally just want to go to school. Like, I literally just want to go to school and support my kids. So he told me, he proposed a deal to me. He said, look, because I was renting a house across the street from him with my brother and my 3 kids. And he said, look, you move in, you get this room for you and your 3 children, and you put on the fridge your schedule, your work and your school schedule. Outside of that, you're not allowed to leave the house. And you will pay your stepmother a few, like, $100 a month to cook extra for you guys. And you could, and you could go to school and work. And I remember saying, no, I won't do it. I was like, I'm sick and tired of this. Like, I will do it on my own. And he's like, what do you mean you'll do it on your own? At the time I was 27, I had bad credit from just coming back. I didn't have a single dollar to my name. And I had an 8th grade education at the time. And he's like, what do you mean you're gonna do it on your own? Like, I said, Dad, like, I'll work, I'll go to school, and I'll raise my kids. He said, I give it 1 year and your kids will be out in the street selling drugs. And he just laughed and laughed at me. And I said, okay, we'll see. And now not a single person meets my kids and doesn't have something to say about how they act and how respectful they are and how generous they are. So I mean, he said I couldn't, but I did,
Yes. You're like, watch me.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the details of that because you just mentioned you had an 8th grade education, bad credit. How did you actually do it physically? Like, how did you get an apartment? How did you get a job? Walk us through what that was like.
Okay, so I didn't realize it at the time. It was just something I was doing. Well, so while I was in Iraq, I didn't have anything. I didn't have, a cell phone. I didn't have communication, but I had a notebook, and in that notebook, I would write in detail what my life would look like. So, for 3 years, when I delivered my second son, he had epilepsy, and I had to stay here for 3 years, and that's part of the reason my ex-husband had so much anger for me is because I stayed in America for 3 years and didn't serve him and be there for him. So when I was back, before I went back to Iraq, I got my diploma as a medical assistant. And I wrote down in my notebook, I said, instead of getting a job, 9 to 5 at a doctor's clinic, I am going to work at the hospital. I'm going to work Friday and Saturday and Sunday nights, and I'm going to go to school all week. And I will have my school schedule in between my kids' school schedule so that way I could pick them up and drop them off. Like, I had this written down to the detail of how I imagined my life. And that's what I did. We stayed after my ex went back. The house was too big for us. We didn't need it. So we moved into a smaller apartment. And because I was working nights, I wanted somewhere safe, gated community. So I had to pay a lot more than a regular apartment. But I worked every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I worked every holiday at the hospital. And during the weekdays, I did that. I went to school at certain times. I would take 22 credit hours a semester. Like, I had to get approved from the dean to do that. And but my GPA was high. Like, I was at 3.7 GPA. So they allowed me to do that just so I could finish. But while I was doing that, I lived below my means. I bought my car cash. I just saved up for it. And I didn't have nothing in my apartment. I didn't have curtains. I didn't have furniture other than our beds. I just stayed really low just to make sure we could just survive, because I had the goal of fixing my credit and buying a house and just being independent, and putting that foundation together for my children. And that's what I did step by step. I would, get credit cards and build my credit and go to school. And just, I worked on these little things that built up over time. I didn't realize the big impact it would have on me later, because I just thought, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, this is my goal, build my credit, go to school. And I just did that. And those little daily activities built up to something really big. And so I'm really thankful for that. Yeah.
That's amazing. Honest question, did you ever sleep?
So another reason I worked nights, it's so funny because what I do now is all about strategy. Like, my career choice right now is all about strategy. And looking back, I say it really makes sense that I'm like a marketing strategist now, because even back then, I strategized everything. So I would work Friday and Saturday and Sunday nights at the hospital because it was slower. So I would get homework done on when patients were sleeping in between my rounds, and during the day, during the weekdays, I would go to sleep while the kids were in school. So I like strategized like even my homework schedule.
But then when did you actually go to school? Because didn't you do that while the kids were in school?
Yeah, but I didn't work on the days I had school, so I'd go to school Monday through Thursday and then do all my work while I was at the hospital, like all my schoolwork.
Okay. And then
Yeah,
somehow you slept in between there.
I did. I did, yes.
Wow. That's incredible. And I actually, and if you don't want to talk about this, we don't have to because it's about your kids. But I was just wondering if you noticed a shift in them once your ex-husband was out of the picture.
A big shift happened in all of us. We were all living in fear. So, when he would come home before, they would run, and whatever they were doing, they would have to stop because he always found a reason to hit them for it. Oh, you guys are being too loud. So they would always stop playing. Oh, you guys are doing this. They would always stop doing whatever they did. Same thing with me. Like he never approved anything. He was just so anal and paranoid all the time. Even like living back in Iraq, I talked to the kids all the time. I said like they would always run to their grandparents to protect them when he came home just to avoid him. um so when he left, I had to work a lot on healing ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
mainly me, but I had to really focus on them and kind of like brainwash them. I had to brainwash them into thinking differently because, like, for example, one of the reasons I had to cut him and my father off is because they always talked down on me and like shamed me, like mental abuse. So one day I told my father, I'm like, get out, don't come back in, don't come into my apartment. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, get out. I was like, I don't want you to talk like that to me in front of my kids. I don't want them to think that's normal, and they will never think the way you talk to me is normal, so you cannot even be around us. So I
Mm.
started eliminating anybody in our life that would just talk negative. So my kids, it's when they hear somebody talking negative, it's so foreign to them now. When they see somebody hit somebody, it's so foreign to them, like they can't
Mm.
comprehend it. So I had to change their whole mindset.
Yeah, you had to deprogram and reprogram them, which reminds
Hmm.
me of a comment actually. I took a screenshot of a couple comments that I wanted to read, and that reminded me of one of them. Sweetie Pie Tweety with 174 likes said, I had to cut off everyone in my life so that would shame me for my choices. So strong. So that's something that you said and they were quoting,
Hmm.
and everyone agrees. And then another one said, this courageous young woman didn't just break the cycles of violence, fear, and abuse. She put her family into a strong new cycle of love, kindness, acceptance, and equality. I'm so proud of her. That's Esther L. Turner. 268 likes for that one. And then this one I also really like from GJ7333. All these people who do not want daughters shouldn't marry anyone's daughter either. 1,000
Yes,
likes. And I agree with that.
I agree.
It's crazy the amount of ways that they would put you down and shame you. And it was all having to do with you just being a woman. And I digress. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. We're talking about how you picked yourself up. So you are doing all of this for your kids. And honestly, I mean, you just came so far. How long did it take for you to save up and to fix your credit so that you could buy a house?
So we came to America in 2017. He left. I can't really remember exactly when he left. It was maybe around like the summer or beginning of the fall. So he was here about 6 to 8 months. And then in 2017 and 2019, right before kids started school in September, I bought our first home. So in about 2 years or so.
That's incredible. Oh my God. Let me fangirl again. So amazing. Let me look at some of these comments. Sorry, guys, I've been ignoring the chats here. Finally, I caught a live. Welcome, welcome. And someone else, Ideen, amazing. Thank you for sharing your story. Oh, here's a question actually, and then we'll get back to ways that you became a boss bitch. Jenna says, did Elaf's parents get divorced? Was her mom aware of the abusive husband? Is she in contact with any of her siblings? So some of these questions were answered in the other video, but let's go ahead and address them here too.
Yes. So, right before my dad married me off, he left my mom pregnant in America and went to Iraq, and he remarried because my mom got pregnant and it was with a girl, and he was really mad it was a girl. So he left her, and my mom and father came to America in 1991, and she was like 19 years old. You know, they come from the country, so she's has a fifth grade education. She's never worked in America, still doesn't know English. So he left her in the home and took us back. He got remarried and then was like, I don't want to deal with raising three daughters. So I was the oldest, so he married me off. Um, I didn't have any contact with my mom. You know, at the time, internet wasn't a big thing, especially in Iraq. So we had to go to these specific like libraries to have long distance phone calls and things like that. It wasn't easy. So we didn't have any contact with my mom, and I didn't even realize it till recently. You know, for a long time I would blame my mom and say like, you should have protected me, and I didn't forgive her because she should have stood up for me, and I'd say all these things until I realized she was actually having it even worse than me. She was pregnant. All her kids were taken away from her, and she was left alone with no income at all for 6 months. And then so we all lost power. Like, he destroyed the whole family. um and then my siblings, well, I was 14 at the time, so my siblings were all younger than me. So they were barely in middle school and elementary schools. What can they do? That we didn't know what was going on. We weren't, at that time. It's like now kids know stuff. They share information with social media. They know what's going on in the world. We didn't know what was going on in the world. We didn't have contact. We were so isolated. We didn't know we had any power. We didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So some people ask too, and I'm sure Jenna's curious about this. Did you reconnect with your mom when you came back to the States?
So my mom lives in Michigan and I live in New Mexico. I came here because my brother was here, and my father. My parents both divorced and remarried. So my mom's living happily remarried. My mom, in a way, is not so supportive of me because she also has that mindset of very traditional, not the mindset of let my daughter be abused, but oh, you should have still fought it out, you should have still worn the hijab, you should have still covered up. So she doesn't
Hmm.
really approve of my life. Nobody really approves of my life.
Interesting. And that's something that we kind of touched on, and maybe we can expand into it a little bit more, which is you had to cut off your entire community for your own mental health and emotional health. And you kind of had to separate yourself so that you could focus on your kids and getting a job. So maybe let's get into a little bit more about what that was like.
Yes, it was. Looking back, I didn't realize how hard it is. Nobody, I didn't have, I had to cut them off. Like, I couldn't tolerate any negativity in my life. So knowing that, I had to pay the price. I had to pay the price that knowing I'll never have a babysitter, knowing that when I fall sick, nobody's gonna get them to school. So I had to like figure out everything. I needed to make sure the school they went to offered a bus, route for them. I needed to make sure that they got their haircuts when I could get it done. When I was sick, nothing got done. I had to teach them independence at a really young age, which kind of hurts me in a way to like say, oh, my 11-year-old son had to learn how to cook and take care of his siblings, but I had no other choice. I did see a question here about did I have a babysitter while I was working nights? And the honest truth is, I would probably never admit it before, but no, I didn't. So I had to find ways to make sure they were safe. So I installed security cameras in the house, in the apartment, in every room and outside. They had a cell phone, and we had a plan. If anybody would knock the door, you guys all go to the closet and you call me, never opens anything. So we had strategic plans, but I had to pay that price to have no support. It was really hard, things like, graduating and not having family there. Just all these things were really hard, but I had to focus on the bigger picture. I couldn't let that distract me.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, I would cry on holidays, and I would work holidays purposely because it would hurt me so much that I didn't have my family. I had to tell myself, I was like, they're not my family. These kids are my family, and it's not fair to me to rob them of their childhood because I was robbed of my childhood. So I
Mm-hmm.
I just had to work on myself all the time, all the time. Like, it was just constantly working on myself.
Yeah. And what about the brother who stood up for you? Do you still have contact with him, or did you have to make a clean break with everybody?
No, he's the only him and my siblings right now, we're very close because
Okay.
we all got the shorter end of the stick when it comes to our parents in different ways. But no, we're all very close, me and my siblings.
But this comment is really funny. Yay, she's back. Your interview with her could have gotten me fired. I was at work locked into your interview. You're both amazing. This woman and her children have all my love, and y'all are amazing. Thank you so much. That's really
Thank
kind.
you.
Yeah, I was at the edge of my seat too when I was interviewing her. I was like, no way. And then, so I'm really glad that you're close with your siblings. That's so great to hear. I'm wondering, for those who may be in a similar situation, who had to cut off their community for their own sanity and mental health and well being, did you find any community in any other type of places, maybe groups or from people at work? Or how did you build up a community around you?
Yes. So one of my biggest supporters was my daughter was 3 years old at the time when this was all happening, and her daycare teachers, two of them, a mother and a daughter, were teachers at the daycare, and they had their daughter was also 3 years old with my daughter, and till this day we're super tight, and I always call them
Hmm.
family, and they've been with me like through it all. um, Everybody in my life has been super helpful. I've built my own community in everything I do, when it comes to work and school. I'm just super grateful for that. Um, One thing that I do always remember is, like, it was really hard because I get so busy and caught up in trying to make a life. But in therapy one time, my therapist told me, she said, because I was always trying to find the parents that I wanted. She's like, you need to let that go because they don't exist. She's like, the parents you want do not exist. So when she told me that, it kind of clicked in my brain. And that's when I really disconnected from them and said, okay, you're right.
Mm.
And I was able to move on and build my own community. So I'm just super, super grateful for everybody I do have in my life.
Yeah, yeah, there's something so powerful about that when you stop the expectation of what you want it to be. I had
Mm-hmm.
similar advice in a therapy session where they were just like, "What are you expecting from your abuser? What are you expecting him to say to you?" And I'm like, this, and this." And she's like, "That's never gonna happen. So once you drop those expectations and meet them where they are, you're just gonna be more at peace because they're never going to be able to meet that. They're not at that level." So yeah, that's really powerful. We have a super chat here from one of our top supporters. Derek, thank you so much. We appreciate you. We just send a little heart. Um, and Jonathan is at home starring comments. Thank you, Jonathan. So leave your questions for Elaf in the comments. So, oh, this is a good one. Erica, you are reforging your family. Yes, she
Like that.
is. And Elizabeth, women can do it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one before we keep going. This lady is a force. Richard, I agree.
Thank you.
Okay, so something that we didn't really talk about in depth is this business that you created. So, It's just everything is amazing. You figure out how to go to school, get a job at this hospital, get your children in a safe place physically in this apartment. You buy a house in 2 years somehow, and then you even start your own business. So let's talk about that business. How did you do it?
So during COVID, I graduated with my bachelor's in criminology and international studies from the University of New Mexico during COVID.
Woo! Amazing.
Thank you. My goal was to go to law school. I was the law school chair for the Pre-Law Society, and I was getting ready to take my test and go to law school. And COVID happened, and it was just getting bad, and things were, everything was so just
Up in the air.
exactly. So while COVID was happening and I was working from home, I started doing side hustles just to kind of get out of the house, like door dashing and things like that. And I started seeing like a need for delivery services. So I started a small business where I would like do pick up and drop off laundry services to like barbershops and salons and things like that. But while I was doing that, I was learning marketing, and I realized I was really good at it. Like I would build websites and design flyers and do all this. So I eventually switched my business over to do marketing. I've been just taking a bunch of classes and courses. And then after COVID, I signed up to do my master's in business at the University of New Mexico. So I'm currently doing that, and I have my own marketing agency. I've teamed up with a local media company as well here that does real estate photography and videography, and we're just going at it. So yeah, so I do a lot of marketing.
That's so cool.
Thank you.
So, do you do it for businesses, for individuals? Like, who's your clientele?
I do for all kinds of businesses. It just, I feel like most of my business has come from local and just making a name for myself here locally.
Mm-hmm.
And but I do a lot for all over, just helping people make websites or learn how to use social media to grow their business, because my business has grown 100% just off social media. I've never had to do anything extra. Just so the power of storytelling, like how we're doing right now, the power of storytelling, the power of putting your brand out there and what you stand for can go such a long way these days when it comes to your business. So I'm really passionate about talking about that. I've been really bad because I've been so busy marketing other people's business. I have not marketed my own.
That happens.
So you probably won't find a lot of content about me, but hopefully to change it soon. But yes, that's what I do.
Well, don't be shy. Tell everyone the name of your business so they can hire you for your services.
My business is called Bosky Premium Services, and it's spelled boss and then key, like the key to being a boss. um, and you can find it in the link that was provided under my interview with all my other links and my other interviews that I've had.
Awesome. I hope you
Thank
get a
you.
bunch of business, a bunch of new
Thank you.
business. Oh, someone asked if you've remarried, if you're comfortable.
No, I have not remarried. I, I have not really focused on dating too much.
Well, she's busy. She just doesn't have time to date.
I,
No, that's
yes,
funny. But you are sleeping more now, I hope. You're getting
I
more
am
sleep.
sleeping. I've worked a lot on it's funny because I just was on survival mode so long
Yeah.
and providing for my kids, and now my boys are in high school and they've had jobs since they were 14, and they have cars and they're getting promotions and all of this, and it's so crazy because now I'm just they're like they don't let me do anything. I have not carried in my groceries in over a year. I
Oh.
don't do their laundry. I don't cook. I literally do not do anything. They're just like, sit, relax. And they just put me in this like really relaxed area where I could just focus on me and, healing and just being a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my
Yeah,
kids
that's
have
so
like
sweet.
reversed the role for me.
Oh, that's so, so
Yeah.
sweet. And so, how old are they now? You said one of them's 18, or did I just make that up? How old's your
17.
oldest?
17.
17.
Yes. He'll graduate high school next year. And it's so crazy.
That is
But
so crazy.
I know.
Wow. And What about them? Are they dating? Oh, we don't need to talk about their dating life. I just feel like
They don't tell me. They don't tell me. They
I
don't.
guess the way that I was going with this is you've taught them so well how to treat women and what's good and what's not good and just modeled that right behavior for them. So I'm sure they're just going to be little princes to their princesses whenever that does happen.
Well, their sister is 10, and it's so funny because sometimes they'll do stuff, and I will look at like the other day they were in the kitchen making, one of them was making us like a bunch of sandwiches. I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm just making us sandwiches for, everybody." And I was like, "They can get up and make their own sandwiches." And he's like, "Yeah, but they're relaxing and playing video games, so I'm gonna make sandwiches." I was like,
Oh my
"Okay."
gosh. That's so
I
sweet.
was like, well, I never did that like growing up, and it makes me like so proud because he's just catering to them, and he's like, yeah, no, like they don't need to get up, I got it. And I was like,
Oh my gosh, I love
okay.
that.
I
I
know.
love that so much. That's so sweet. Okay, CS, do your siblings live with your mother or are they with your father?
Neither. My siblings are all adults now, so they're all just a few years younger than me, so everybody just lives on their own now.
Okay. So your father doesn't have control over anybody anymore,
No,
ideally.
no.
Good. Good, good, good. Jessica, does your dad know the gender he was his doing, right? I saw another comment on your video that was like, do guys understand that the gender comes from the sperm and not the egg?
Somebody go tell him.
Someone tell him. Who's gonna tell him? Okay, let's see. Are there any more questions? Here's a comment. Ideen, love your program. It helps me understand cultural diversity and how to identify those in crisis. Oh, that's great. Yes, that's what we want, spreading awareness. Is there anything while, oh, here's another question. Are you hiring? Ooh, also have a degree in
Yeah.
marketing.
Oh, not yet, but I'd love to eventually hire. Send me a message.
There you go. Where can they reach you?
You can reach me if by email info@boskypremiumservices.com, or you could just search my name on any social media, Ellaf Al-Tamini, and you should find me. So you can message
Okay,
me on that.
great. Um, was just catching up on Kara's collab about Tim Ballard. Glad to catch a live. I love the energy and love in here already. Yay! Welcome, welcome. Thanks for being here. Do you have anything that you wanted to talk about that you feel like we missed in our previous conversation? Something that you wanted to say?
Um, I think I just want to say I tell people a lot is no matter how bad you think it is, you like I'm assuming the majority of us are either, in America or somewhere where we have resources, is even if you don't think there's resources, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's mental abuse, whether it's financial. There's so many nonprofits that offer resources. Look for them. Look for what you need and you will find it. For me, it's like I never gave up. I would research and research until I find something that would help me, whether it was to pay a bill, whether it was to get food, whether it was like to get gas or resources. I just always looked for resources. And another thing is like I always had a plan B just in case. A lot of women reach out to me and say like I want to leave the relationship, but I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I always tell women or anybody that needs to leave their situation, have resources available, have a plan, have somewhere to go. Look at what you can find. Because if I was in Iraq and fled overseas from two men that tried to kill me several times and could like build this life, if you're here in America, you can do it. Like it will be hard. It will be, some days like I can't tell you how many times I like cried myself to sleep or doubted myself, but I couldn't stop. I just kept going. And when you keep going, like it builds to something more. Like I said, it's those little habits.
Yeah, that's amazing. Great advice. We need to get more resources. We have a resources highlight on our Instagram with certain groups like for Scientology or the what are the other ones that we have? Like a Mormon sex therapist or someone who needs help with
Mhm.
religious trauma and all of this stuff. So if you have any resources that you know of, I would be happy to add those to that if you want to send them to me, or if anyone wants to send me resources, I would
Okay.
love to compile them and maybe even have just like a major tab on our website with as much information as possible, because we know these videos reach a lot of people and people who are needing help, and they see you and they realize that it is possible and you give them hope and inspiration. And so we want to help as much as we can. So thank you for saying that. Are there any other questions? I'm not seeing any questions, just lots of beautiful comments. Thank you, C2C, amazing guest. Thank you, Richard. Um, Sometimes you have to mourn the family you wish you had, but now you've built a wonderful family with your kids. Yes,
Thank
I
you.
agree. Please like and subscribe, all the YouTube things. Yeah, this has been great. Thank you for coming on and sharing again. I was like, we have to bring her back. Everyone is so impressed by you, and I'm sure you're just going to keep going. I mean, a master's degree, girl, just out there doing a thing. That's amazing. Was there anything else that you wanted to say before we sign off?
I just wanted to thank everybody for the support and all the positivity. It's just kept a smile on my face like the past week. Thank you.
Yay!
Thank you for everything you do with this channel. It's amazing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, this channel wouldn't exist without people like you willing to come on and share and be brave, because it is scary and vulnerable talking about stuff like this to the World Wide Web, to everyone who wants to tune in and listen. So we appreciate you and everything that you're doing. And same thing for you guys. Thank you for coming on and supporting our guests, for sharing these videos, for leaving your comments, your kind words of encouragement. As I always say, if you comment on this video after it's done, after the live is ended, that also helps more people see it. Of course, subscribing. We hit 200K. Yay! So
Yay.
excited. I feel honored that people are willing to come on this journey with us and support our guests and this advocacy work that we do. And I think that's it. If you want some merch, I'm wearing one of our shirts. Be conscious, be well. We have Apostates Unite, Linda Listen shirts. Sorry for what I said when I was in a cult. That's at cultstoconsciousness.com under the merch tab. You can find that. And we have Patreon if you want to do that. We're going to Costa Rica. I know you just got back from Costa Rica, Ellaf, or I'd tell you to
Mhm.
come with us. We're going at the end of August. It is fully booked, but if you want to add your name to the waitlist, you can do that. And I think that's it. Thank you guys for coming. And until next time, follow your highest excitement, be conscious, and be well. Thanks, Elaf.
Thank you. Bye.